Hey, how's it going and welcome to another video. So I've been uploading a lot of Guilty Gear Strive beta videos over the past couple of days, and I figured today we could have a semi-real talk relating to like self-esteem when it comes to like beyond just fighting games, like competition in general, but this is mostly kind of focused on fighting games. And I guess just kind of how to deal with losing and the frustration that comes with it and self-esteem, since I'm somebody who really does struggle with self-esteem issues a lot of the time. And it seems like whenever a new fighting game comes out, like even though Strive isn't out, you know, we had a good while to play that beta. But whenever a new fighting game comes out, it feels like it creates a new wave of people that feel way worse about themselves than like they really should. And throughout this, I'm kind of just gonna go on a multi-layered tirade about like, you know, self-esteem and losing and how to get better and good, I guess, habits to kind of get into. So I figured to set the stage, I'd kind of talk about my own sort of history with like self-esteem issues, since I went through this phase throughout like the better part of a year. Must have been in like around 2014, 2015-ish, where I just felt like total fucking crap about myself. And I remember just like bitching endlessly to whoever would be foolish enough to play a game with me about how bad I was, about how I wasn't getting any better, about how it was probably a waste of time to even play with me. And it was kind of omnipresent throughout like basically any genre I would attempt, whether it was like an RTS or a fighting game or a first-person shooter or anything. I would just like develop this kind of overwhelming sense that like, oh, I was never getting any better, that like it was just a waste of time to even attempt to get better. And the thing that's like so shitty about ending up in that kind of mentality is that like you stop even caring about fun. You know, your mind becomes so preoccupied with doing well or fitting into some arbitrary definition of good that actually having a good time just like it stops becoming relevant. So I think around that time, like 2014, 2013-ish, that was probably like the worst of it for me. And I really wish I could give you an answer on like what changed. Obviously, like I said, I'm not exactly Chad Thundercock. I'm not, still definitely have some self-worth issues going on, but I can at least like, you know, lose at things or get my ass kicked or play suboptimally or whatever and still have a good time. So I feel like that's definitely an improvement, but I think part of what happened is just that, like, I kind of realized that behavior was driving people away from me. And the reality is that, like, everybody kind of gets a little bit frustrated when they lose. It definitely, like, affects people differently, but ultimately, I think nobody really cares that you lost. It's the fact that you won't shut up about it. That's when people start to get a little bit miffed. And it's especially annoying if you were like me and you kind of just expected to be good at things without like genuinely putting in work for it. When it comes to like losing, I think people tend to have like one of two different kind of reactions. They either get mad or they get defeatist about it. Like some people, they lose and they turn into like the angry video game nerd or something. They start cursing and getting genuinely mad at either themselves or the opponent or the game or whatever. And then there's people, I think I more kind of fall into this camp, but people that just kind of get sad about their losses. And I think I have advice for both camps. I would say for the people who, like, lose and get mad, I think the best thing you can do is to turn that frustration into growth. You know, I'm gonna sound like Dr. Phil or something here, but I think it's important to first of all think about, like, where that anger is coming from and kind of figure out like why it's bothering you so much. For some people, it's an internal thing, right? It's like, man, I fucked up. Why didn't I get that command to come out? Like, why am I so bad at reading my opponent? Why do I keep doing that? You know, the question becomes, what's wrong with me? Or sometimes it's like anger at the game, and it's just like, oh man, why does this character get this fucking thing? That move is so broken, that's really stupid, I hate fighting this character. Or you're just angry at your opponent, it's like, you keep doing this same thing over and over again. Or your playstyle is so not fun, or you use this character that I hate. Or sometimes you're more in the camp of like, you don't hate the player, you hate the game. You're more just like, I hate this system. Why does it do that? Why did the designers of this game let this character do this thing? But I think it's really important to stop and think like, where is that anger actually coming from? A lot of the time, I think the answer, it really does kind of boil down to you're more mad at yourself than anything. Since, like, ultimately, I think the result that you wanted was for you to win, right? The thing about the character being broken or this system of the game being shitty or whatever is kind of just a roundabout way of saying, I wish I had won, right? And once you kind of recognize, like, where the source of that anger is coming from, that's great, baby, because now you can figure out how to, like, not get mad about it. Are you upset because you can't do that certain input on command? Well, I have news for you, buddy. Fucking, dude, training mode exists. Go practice that input, like, make sure you can do it over and over and over again very consistently. Did you fuck up that combo that would have won you the game? Hey, that's wonderful. You can go, like, practice the combo over and over and over. And if somebody else or, like, another character or whatever you think is really the cause of your frustration, then just, like, practice against them. Like, learn how to deal with that character. This makes me sound like an anime supervillain, but, like, anger and, like, that frustrated drive really is one of the most powerful, like, mental weapons that humans have. You would be very surprised how far your spite can get you when it comes to, like, trying to get results. You know, turn that, like, rage into something positive. You really want to beat that one friend of yours, right? You want to perfect that motherfucker. Like, put that frustration to good use. Really learn how to counter that character. And, you know, as long as you're not, like, a raging psychopath who's going around destroying your house or something, I think that little bit of, like, kind of anger is good. You know, I'm not saying go around punching people, but it's good to have that drive, I think. I think that just kind of makes you human, as if, like, you have a really close set against somebody and they just barely chip you out and you go, fuck! Like, that's just part of the human experience, baby. That means that you cared and that you have that passion and that drive to try again. So I'd say that's my kind of advice for the angry boys in the audience, is that, like, that frustration you have is a very powerful weapon. You can use that to motivate you to do incredible things as long as you put it in, like, the right place. And when it comes to Sad Gang, which is what I think I'm a part of, like, this is honestly a lot more difficult to kind of coach because I've been there, and at least for me, it's so much easier to, like, tell somebody, hey, direct your anger towards improvement than it is to, like, kind of pick up a sad boy, you know? Since, you know, self-doubt and that kind of feeling of just like, oh, I'm just not good enough, I'm not getting any better, it sucks, right? It's very, very shitty, and it's really hard to convince certain people that, like, you're really not shitty, like, at all. And I think something that makes it hard when it comes to, like, you know, any skill in life, really, this doesn't just apply to fighting games, this applies to, like, art, you know, whatever you can think of, music. Improvement is the most slow, incremental, and hard to track thing ever. You know, we're so used to, like, video games where you get a stat bar or an EXP gauge and, like, you fill that sucker out and you are definitively now better at that thing. Whereas in real life, we don't have that, and as a result, it's sadly very easy to get, like, down on ourselves when we don't feel like we're getting better. Like, nobody throughout history has ever been the best at something for free. Like, nobody ever just woke up one day and suddenly they were the best basketball player of all time, or they were the greatest artist ever. It takes so much time and effort to, like, really genuinely cultivate a skill. Like, look at me, I've been making YouTube videos for years and I still fucking suck at it. But the point I'm trying to get across here is that you are improving. Like, you are. It's just that improvement is such an incremental and slow thing that is like, we can't really actively track it. You know, every game you play, you do become that slight bit better. Whether that's, you know, your execution of commands becomes that slight bit tighter, or you learn a character matchup a little bit better, or just whatever it happens to be. You are learning and you're getting better. But nobody's ever gone from being, like, you know, a C-tier player to a B-tier player after playing one game of something. That's just not how it works. Especially in fighting games where the games go by so fucking quickly. Like, let's just say for a second the average game of Guilty Gear takes like 2 minutes, right? Imagine if you were an artist and you spent 2 minutes working on, like, a drawing or whatever, and then you stopped and went, why am I not vastly better now? It's the same idea. And everybody's obviously a little bit different. You know, some people pick up a new new hobby or game or whatever, and they're immediately kind of okay at it. Whereas for some people, the journey is a little bit more rocky, but that doesn't mean that your skill ceiling is any different. Nobody ever reaches this theoretical maximum where it's like, all right, you know what? Now I can never get any better at this video game. I am kind of capped out. Like, that just doesn't happen. And I'd say take solace in the fact that, like, you're not gonna get any worse, right? At the most, you might end up getting kind of rusty, right? Like, sometimes you just don't play something for a while and you have to kind of relearn those skills. But it's like, nobody in human history has ever played, like, 100 games of a fighting game and then been, like, worse than they were before they started. And another bit of advice that I think I'd give to people that kind of feel down about themselves and, like, the skill level that they're at is finding a rival or somebody around your skill level that you can just play with over and over and over again is super important. I don't really like or believe in the philosophy that some people have where it's like, yeah, if you want to get any better, you have to just play against somebody who's way better than you over and over and over again. I think especially for people who don't have the most self-esteem, that's like very destructive, is the idea of just like, yeah, all right, just make your self-esteem worse. Just like lose over and over and over again. You know, it's the same philosophy as if you played somebody that's like way, way worse than you. It's like, you're not really learning that much. You're not really like testing yourself. But I think it's important to kind of find that rival or a friend or whatever that's around your skill level, maybe a little bit better. I think that's kind of a good compromise. Is, you know, play with somebody who's maybe more educated on the game, who's been playing it a little bit longer, but still somebody that you can have a good kind of back and forth with. And I think that kind of like balance between winning and losing is a lot better for the ego than getting your ass beaten over and over and over again. Because, you know, let's say you have that friend, like I said, who's a little bit better than you, and like, you know, he beats you most of the time, but then you get that win, and it's like, yeah, I got you, motherfucker. Isn't that a great feeling? And I think just another kind of good way of looking at things is that, like, instead of thinking, I lost, fuck, just ask yourself, like, okay, I lost. Why? So yeah, losing, it sucks. Like, it happens to everybody. Nobody in human history has ever had, like, a 100% perfect win streak in everything they've ever done, ever. And I think it's ultimately important to remember that, like, you are getting better. Even if you lost, that doesn't mean that, like, you suddenly are worse now. You got better. You did. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.